a chance to explore the city in the last sort of 36 hours or so. I have to say I'm incredibly impressed. You can get anywhere in 15 minutes and in 10 euro of a cab ride. It's amazing. And then I've been eating the egg tarts, those amazing pastries you have, pastel de nata, right? Yes, really, really, really good. But anyways, I'm here to, I guess, end the conference for you today. I'm between you and a party, I understand, so I will try to be as efficient as possible. But today I wanted to sort of take a little bit of a departure from what I regularly talk about. I'm going to share a bit about, why is there some 12-year-old Asian kid on stage talking to you about entrepreneurship. I will, though, explain why that is indeed the case. And then I will dive into a bit more about this, which is keep getting lucky. So I think luck is a theme in many of our lives. We've all experienced it in one form or another. But I want to share with you how you can create it. How can you create luck? But it's going to be very fun. And so this is a bit about me. So this is and how many of you recognize this screenshot? Yeah! You guys are my favorite people. No one gets it. When I'm talking about like stuffy executives, they have no idea what Counter-Strike is. I go, it's a first-person shooter. I was very addicted to it. I was an AWP whore. Yes, it's a sniper. And I tried to make the argument to my mom and dad that me playing Counter-Strike more was making me a more efficient designer, right? Because more eye-hand coordination and everything. And they're like, no, not going to buy that. But I was a huge gamer, and I spent a lot of time playing games. With that, I actually got very bored of school as well. I ended up skipping some school. I ended up skipping 2 grades in elementary school, 2 grades in high school. And I graduated college when I was 18 years old. And I'm born and raised in Canada, so as much as that question of where are you really from? My parents are from Hong Kong, but I was born and raised in Vancouver and ended up moving down to San Francisco to actually not start a company, believe it or not, but to work at another company. The economy was very bad in 2009, and the only jobs I was being offered were these unpaid internships at advertising agencies, and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna go to San Francisco, and I'm going to see if I can work at a startup. And Dig was one of the startups that I met with. Some of you may have heard of Dig. They were a social news company that really blew up and was sort of the darling of Web 2.0, but unfortunately suffered a very bad fate and kind of got sold off for scraps about a year ago. I ended up working there, but as you can see, there's very beer drinking culture. And that was the beer fridge at Dig, and the HR lady made sure the sign was very clear and I couldn't drink because in the US the drinking age is 21 and I was still 19 at the time. But anyways, I ended up getting laid off at Dig. I lost my job. I was 5 months into my job in May of 2010, and they started cutting people because the company was failing and they were losing a lot of traffic. And usually the most junior business development guy is the guy that gets cut first, right? So I was laid off essentially first. And so here I was, I found myself without a job, the age of 19. Remember, first job out of college, right? My parents are traditional Asian parents, okay? No job, 19, okay, wasn't really a good combination. I also lost my visa. So I understand the pains of this whole immigration. Yes, being Canadian, it's the same thing. We still have to apply for a visa. We're still immigrants when we're going to the US. Even though everybody says Canada doesn't like the US, it doesn't matter. I still need to get my visa, and I lost my visa. And so I was like, what do I do? And I remember during my break, this sort of forced break, I was like, okay, let me try to think of what I could do next. And going to another company was one option, and starting one was the most risky, because again, you're not supposed to start a company when you're an immigrant. This is not how it works. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna do that. And so I had this inspiration when I was on a plane. I remember being on a long haul flight, and I looked to my left and to my right, and I noticed that everybody who was awake was on their phones playing games. And then it hit me. I was like, okay, this is a huge, rapidly growing phenomena. There's so many people playing games. There must mean that there's a potential advertising opportunity. So I studied marketing in college. I minored in political science, doesn't matter. But that whole thing, the combination was funky, but I really wanted to. It was really fun. But marketing was like, let me see into consumer behavior. And yes, rapidly rising behavior, lots of people looking at phones, playing games, there must be advertising. And so I started looking at it, and as you saw there, the current advertising experience in the phone is terrible, right? You guys have seen this shit. It flies in your face, kicks you out, this is annoying, right? And to me, I was like, this cannot be the end goal, right? This can't be the final result of mobile advertising as we know it. So I started to see if I could think of new ways to break it down. I noticed that every game has one thing in common, and that's the fact that they all have these achievement moments. So you can level up, get a high score. Every game has these, right? Because I was a gamer, it was all built into me. I was like, these, we call them E moments. You're really happy. It's like an emotional reaction. And most advertising doesn't care if you're happy. But I was like, what if advertising could care if you were happy? What if it could reward you? And so the idea for Kiip came to be, which was to reward you with real goods when you're playing virtual games, right? And I was like, that's fun. And why not make it serendipitous? So you don't know when the rewards are coming. You just know that when you're playing and you're doing what you're doing already, a reward will magically appear. And so we started building that company, and it's been about 2.5 years, so it's old now. It's like an old startup. It's like old, right? Like, I'm 21, by the way. I'm old now, right? Like, this is crazy. But we've now, to date, raised about $15 million in the States. We're based in San Francisco, New York. This is a bit of a traction so far. There's about 45 people in the company. We've given about $250 million rewards to date now. About 52 million devices every month. To say the least, I'm very happy with how things have grown in the company, but this stuff all, I will say, happened by luck. And now hopefully I can share a bit about how you guys can get that luck too. But this is actually a recent accolade we got. We were the number 45th most innovative company in the world in front of Microsoft. Yes! Fucking $20 billion R&D budget is no match for our 8 engineers, right? You know? So very happy to say the least. But actually, I want to show you this video really quickly. To have rewards be a part of your everyday life was something that we really truly wanted to do since the beginning here at Kiip.
We like to feel appreciated with Kiip and the Kiip reward. You get that feeling.
That's actually him, yeah, it's really him. It's legitimately MC now.
Kiip allowed us to create a stream of revenue that's based entirely on rewarding the player, these achievement moments, or these moments that are already rewarding, and it's ratcheted that up.
These everyday victories, these moments, they're everywhere. We wanted to reward everyday life, and Kiip finally enables us to do just that. So you can kind of see how the idea actually evolved, right? So funny, because when you first start, you have this very, innocent-looking, nerdy idea of rewards for games, and then all of a sudden, one of my employees was like, "Hey, man, don't you think that this could apply to other apps, like fitness?" I was like, "Oh yeah, I never really thought of that." And then all of a sudden, the idea became more than just the rewards in games, but the rewards in everyday life, and that's when the idea started to really grow. And this is a 20-second snapshot of our network in the US right now. These are literally rewards being given in real time when we took that video. So it's really, really cool. And this is actually one of the dashboards that we see when we walk into our office. And it's really cool. Sorry, I just gave away the first 2 tabs. All right, it's really cool. But all right, I digress. Let's talk about getting lucky, shall we? So number 1 is to start playing. Now, I know this sounds very obvious, and I know a lot of you have started already. But the game of entrepreneurship must be started to be played in the first place. A lot of folks come to me and go, they're all teetering on the edge of the cliff, going, "Oh, do I want to do this or not? Oh, school, and all these people today have given you all the facts you need, okay, to go and jump off this cliff and to grow wings while you are falling, okay? So this is how I see it. You need to understand that the game has to be started first. And I hear a lot of folks that go, "Hey man, can we grab coffee?" And like, "Oh, no. There comes a point when you're asking too many fucking questions, okay? You just need to start. It's really annoying sometimes, and at the end of the day, I can't give you all the advice that can help you get started on every single detail that your startup would need. I can't give that all to you. In fact, when I try to give any advice at all, I say, "Hey, listen, take this with a grain of salt, It probably means nothing to you because what worked for me in my circumstances probably won't work for you in your circumstance. But what you can try to do is extrapolate the principles and how you're thinking about it. The frame of mind. Where am I going to, how am I going to react if certain things happen in a certain way? And again, today a lot of speakers have shared that with you, but you have to start in order for shit to start happening. Number 2 is attract luck through happiness. And this is, yes, the Victoria's Secret bottles. I usually attribute luck to Victoria's Secret bottles. It is wishful thinking. But anyways, happiness is a very important piece of luck, and I'll tell you why. You know how they kind of say the whole thing where, I think I probably studied this in psychology, where they say that when you like make the emotion of smiling, your brain actually gets happy versus being happy and then smiling. It's kind of both ways work. So what I'm trying to say is there is a way to essentially almost physically influence happiness. And I've learned this in many situations where imagine you're in a meeting and maybe sometimes you have people who aren't so responsive to your excitement, right? As entrepreneurs, we're always very excited people. And maybe the dude sitting there is like, okay, what? Okay, well then you know what you do? You smile, right? And here's the thing, when you smile, how can you be angry? You just can't. You make everybody in front of you super happy. The most stone-faced dude will lighten up. I've learned this time and time again. It never fails. Because you're young, you're allowed to be happy. You're allowed to look like this wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, and sort of just running around. You're able to do that. That is part of your excuse for being young, right? You're allowed to do that. So use it. And so part of that is to attract this luck when you're happy and everybody wants to be around someone who's happy. It's that simple. The beacon of someone who's happy and seems to be something's good happening with this guy. You'll want to be around that person. And if you're the same, that happens as well. So at Kiip, funnily enough, part of our principle in how we build the company was around happiness. Was how do we almost take all of these moments, is what we describe them as, and bring them all together and make sure that brands are able to be a part of it. And part of it in a meaningful way. Because we realize that, and I'm going to quote Spider-Man's uncle, with great power comes great responsibility, right? Okay. So, yes, and so with brands, they have a lot of power, right? They can buy billboards and be everywhere, but they usually fuck it up, right? They're usually very annoying. And so I told them, listen, people are happy in these moments. You need to be respectful of their moments of happiness, right? So you need to make sure that they are there when you are there in a very respectful way. Number 3 is to choose a really, really big field. And I say this because when you first start up a company, you're very tempted to go, boom, this is the one idea, this is the thing I'm going to focus on, I'm going to communicate it to everybody, this is a tiny little thing. No offense to do with beach towels, that's kind of what you did there, right? And that's great. And it's very good that you pick beach towels. But why not create a company that enhances beach living and is all about modern design in beach living? That way you have an excuse to pivot into fucking plastic shovels that are colorful and weird fucking water coolers that have beer in it, whatever. You can do whatever you want. But what happens, unfortunately, sometimes when you're honing in, and by the way, this company could be super successful. I'm just doing an example because it's perfect, it's right before me. When you hone in on something too detailed, for me at Kiip, if we had honed in on just one particular idea and then we ended up doing all sorts of other stuff later, it would look like we're backtracking. So when you actually identify a great field, when you pick up industry that is allowed for you to ripe for destruction, and you sort of pinpoint that. Advertising for us was that one. Old, stuffy, ripe for destruction, lots of money. We can pinpoint that, allow that to be a part of my focal point, but not necessarily corner us to one particular idea. And so I think it's very important entrepreneurs realize this, is that you want to have a broad enough of a field to work off of, and then focus later, and actually have multiple focus so you can actually show these experiments that you're allowed to learn. You have the permission to learn as an entrepreneur. Next is choose a game with very few players. Now, in the picture above is a sport that is called tandem surfing. Oh, sorry. This remote's really it's misbehaving. Bad remote. Okay. Make a game with less players, right? The bottom picture is a sport called tandem surfing. It is literally what it looks like. 2 people on a surfboard, usually a man and a woman, and he is literally twirling her around while he's surfing. Like, I'm serious. This is a real sport. It's called tandem surfing. Now, I met in Hawaii a couple years ago a couple by the name of Bear and Talon. I shit you not, that were their names. Bear and Talon. I don't make this shit up. And I met with Barry and Talon. They were like, well, Ryan, I would love to teach you how to surf. I was like, yes. And they're like, you know what? Don't worry, we are world champions in tandem surfing. I was like, wow, you're world champions. Wow, so impressive. But the number of people who are actually playing the sport of tandem surfing is like 30 people. Right? So you're the world champion. But it's impressive, and they made it. They essentially helped write the rules. Like, I'm not even kidding you. He's the head of the chair of whatever fucking association of tandem surfing, and he like made the rules for how the sport's supposed to work. So this is another thing. When you're creating a new idea, if it ever feels like following someone else's footsteps, it's probably already too easy, and you're probably not going to get that level of recognition in an industry that you create. You know, people move to the Silicon Valley not to join another company, or like I did. I know a lot of people do that, but at the same time, people move down to the valley to create revolutions. There are new ideas and industries that you want to be able to see, and you're not going to do that if you're just going to fall into another category. And actually, just pretend as if you're not in that industry. Like, that's what we did, right? Technically, if you look at the way that Kiip looks like underneath the surface, we're very much so advertising. But we have this element of rewarding and reciprocity. We wanted to make it very new. We were able to carve out our own category by inventing a new language, by almost describing everything we did very differently. We're not we're a rewards network. We use the moments of happiness. It's about serendipity and engagement. And all of a sudden, people started to view it differently. I refuse to be like everybody else. And when you're able to create your own vernacular, you're able to create your own category, something magical happens. You begin to be a part of a game that has less players, and you can be the world champion of the game you create. That's the magic behind it. Number 6 is to remove unlucky from your vocabulary. Now, I always hear this, so unlucky, everything's unlucky, everything's not going my way. Here's the thing. This is the old adage of, the lucky person gets into a car accident, and then an unlucky person gets into a car accident. The unlucky person goes, oh my God, I'm such a klutz. I'm always in accidents. And then the lucky person goes, oh, I'm so lucky to be alive. So it's always about how you view it. And I view any failure or any sort of bad situation as a very lucky opportunity to learn. And learn early. Because these things will happen to you, and for us, we never want to view anything as a failure or something as unlucky. It's always an opportunity, because sometimes the things that feel like it's unlucky or feel like it never went your way happens for a reason, and you usually create it yourself if you have control over it. And mind you, this is only for me to sort of help you frame this so that when you do have these situations, you can't wait for luck to always come your way. You do have to go and grab it. And just simple things like asking is a big deal, right? Asking for help, asking for mentorship. Again, when you're young, you have the permission to ask. You have the license to learn. You're young enough to be naive, and you're young enough to be benign and very harmless. And so when you go into someone's office and you sit down there and you're like, I would love to learn. I don't want to sell you anything, I would love to learn. And these are the best ways to open doors. Number 7 is, it's all about relative luck. So yes, so first world problems. Right in the background, you have a stretch logo where you can't even get over hills. Okay, But here's the thing. The relative luck is very a big deal. So when we started off the company, everything grew in tranches, right? So people ask me like, how does it feel? Like, I don't even know how it feels, because every step along the way, it was a struggle. It was like building this thing from the ground up. And it was 1, 2, 3, building employees one after another, building the company and its revenue, dollar after dollar. And especially when you raise money, I do want to remind you, someone once told me this, and I remember this even to this day, and it drives the way to make a lot of my decisions, is every dollar you raise is a drop of blood, right? This is literally coming out of you, right? It's kind of gross, I'm visualizing it. But the whole point is, this is how you should feel it, right? It's not just free money. You created this baby, and now you're selling a chunk of it, right? So you don't want to make this, you don't want to disrespect that value. And so for us, the relative luck was every time we got a new milestone, we would announce it and we would celebrate it. So this is one big difference, I think, culturally. We make a little bit of a generalization, but it is true. A lot of people do generalize the U.S. A lot of folks and entrepreneurs and companies in the U.S. are very loud, right? You guys have noticed this. Oh, we got some award in some random fucking under 50 list, like I just did right there with Fast Company, right? That list could mean shit to anybody here, right? But I was like, hey, we're number 45, we'll be like this up, yeah. Here's the thing, celebrating your wins, you should not be ashamed of that. You should be very proud of it. You should rally everybody around it. Everything is a win. I don't care if it's a tiny list. I don't care if some random association made this list up. I don't care if I made this list up. It's still a list, and I still got recognition for it. And you should remember that that's something you should be proud of. Now, again, don't do it too excessively, but it is very important. Again, there's moderation, but try to, again, make sure that there's something to rally against, because this is always a way to motivate and create your own relative luck. Number 8 is to use what normally gets you lucky. And yes, I mean what I mean here. It's whatever you use to attract the opposite sex. You know, when you're in a bar and you're flirting with a girl or whatever, whoever you want to flirt with a guy, whatever floats your boat, is whatever you use. What is the thing you use? Is it your muscles? Is it because you're smart and you do math really fast? Is it because you do magic tricks? I don't care. The thing that makes you lucky is most likely the thing you can use to be successful. And I really mean it. Like whenever I'm in business meetings, I'm almost like flirting with the other person, right? Because you want to like show them your best side. You want to be very, sort of patient and accommodating for what they need. It's almost like, it's dating, right? So that's why the thing that you use to get lucky is always the thing that I think will actually help you get ahead. So remember this. And this is also sometimes I ask people when we interview them for a job at Kiip is, what's your superpower? That's one question we'll ask. Most people don't know what their superpower is, but I'll tell you what it is. It's that one thing you just seem to be in your flow, in your like natural mindset when you're doing it. You're like, oh my God, I know exactly what I'm doing. It makes sense. It could be video games. I don't care. Just remember that moment and what was it that you were doing. It could be sports. It could be anything. But just remember that that's the thing that you should hone in on. Because I think we spend a lot of time, especially in school, trying to fix everything that we're bad at. And I tell you, I fucking suck at math. Right? I'm Asian, I'm supposed to be good at math. I'm like doing a disfavor to my own race for being terrible at math. Like, even, like Chrissy, my girlfriend here, can attest to this. We were like going cab rides today, and I'm like, oh, what's 870, 10 minus 870? Okay, but at the same time, it's like, there are things, I'm not going to fix that. Yeah, I'm going to do some multiplication tables and stuff on little basics, but my CFO does all that shit, right? So you guys have to remember, there are things that you will not be good at and things you'll be very good at. Make sure you focus on what you're good at. We're almost done. Number 9 is to make people lucky, right? Everybody around you here today, you're here for a common reason. You've gathered because you're passionate about entrepreneurship, you're young. You're young too. Everybody's young. Very young. You are all passionate about entrepreneurship. Use this common passion. Careful now. Use this common. I know it's very exciting. Use this common passion and be able to spread that luck with each other. When someone celebrates a win, share it. Help someone around you. Introduce them. Everybody that comes from a region of the world, like Lisbon or Portugal in general, their country may not be perceived to be, Silicon Valley or whatever. It doesn't matter. You can create that winning world on your own. Like Vancouver, for example. I come from Vancouver, right? I love helping entrepreneurs from Vancouver. If you come from Vancouver, naturally, you have my ear. I will answer every email. I will try to be as attentive as I can with your random phone calls, so a lot of people do randomly call me from Vancouver. But the thing is, you need to spread that love. As soon as someone begins to start winning, that luck needs to be spread because it's almost like a very, very virtuous cycle. It begins to almost sort of envelop the entire city when more and more stories are shared. It's the stories that come from regions are the ones that really make it special. You will always hear about these things, right? The wins, the big companies. These stories are very important because it's what brings the world to you. It's what helps people pay attention to the region. So it's very important that all these things happen and make people lucky. All will come back to you. Trust me. This is how the world works. And last but not least is, badly, this luck can become serendipity. And so this is a picture of me skydiving a few months ago. And guess what? I'm still alive. Thank you very much.
Now you need to buy me a big towel. You're like, now you need to buy me a big towel when I
will buy your towel. I totally buy your towel.
I have one question. How does Kiip makes money? How does your company makes money?
So the economics of it are very simple. The brands are paid to be a part of the network. They buy moments, right? So they buy morning moments or sports or fitness moments or happiness or gaming moments. And then what happens is the rewards are shown in these moments in the games and the apps that are in our network that integrate us. So we don't make any of our own games or apps. We take existing ones and we integrate our code into it so that the moments are actually accessible. And then we rev share with the developers so they get a bit of the action as well. And so that's how the money flows.
Thank you.
Hi, Brian. So at the age of 20, you raised almost $500,000, right?
Yes.
What was the biggest challenge on doing that?
So I will tell you one thing that doesn't seem to plague the raising process in the Valley is age. They don't really care. In fact, being young is not even anything special anymore. Like, there's like 4 other kids that have broken my record. There's like a 16-year-old kid that raised money like 3 months ago, and the guy's like, "Oh, fuck you, man." No, I'm not kidding. We know each other. Like, it's funny. Like, all the young entrepreneurs, we're all like, and he's like, "Oh, record, man." I'm like, all right, fuck. But in all seriousness, so the challenge was, you know, you will come to the world with a very innocent view. Like, you know, people will kind of look at your model rationally, right? And revenues, for example, are very important, right? In normal capitalistic societies, revenue is a very important thing, right? It means you are actually building a company. And you know where I'm going with this, right? So there's a lot of interesting dynamics with revenue and user acquisition, different growth metrics, and it's part of sort of this game. And it's I like playing games, like I said, but sometimes it's like, come on, man, like I'm building a business. Like, I don't care if you like to see user acquisition or revenue dollars or the number of times I farted in the office. It doesn't matter. There's still metrics that are growing, okay? Because of the amount of beans we're serving. But at the same time, it's something that's very good. Yeah. There's a lot of Mexican food in San Francisco. It's really good though. But anyways, but yes, it's kind of weird sometimes. So I had to interpret it and learn it. I spent a lot of time with other entrepreneurs. The easiest way is finding guys that have done it before, right? But here's the thing. Like I said, you can ask for advice. But the question I hate the most is, oh man, let's touch base or let's catch up. Or like, what about? Ask a specific question. Be like, hey man, I'm having a lot of trouble understanding if this is a fair equity structure for me and my founders at a series sort of stage of investment. Can you please give me some advice on that? And they'll hop on the phone, they'll call you. People will be very readily willing to give you advice because here's the thing, they have time, right? These guys will have time, other than driving up and down between Palo Alto and San Francisco or when they're on the dump. Like, it doesn't matter. You know, people have free time. They will make some of the time that they have free in the day to help you if you really have a true and genuine question. Any other questions? The guy over there? Come on. You just yell it. Oh, no.
Working. How does a business student, like you said you're marketing and political science, but the last part doesn't matter. How does a marketing student get into the tech field and convince an engineer to join him in his vision? Especially
Very good question. So, there's one thing I forgot to share, and I kind of hinted at it when I talked about designing well because of Counter-Strike. So I pirated Photoshop when I was 11 years old. Yeah, I'm very proud of it. In fact, everybody pirates Photoshop. Who the fuck pays for it? Seriously, I mean, come on. I mean, now we're paying for it. But in the beginning, it's like, you're 11 years old, how do you afford a $1,000 piece of software, right? This doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so I pirated Photoshop, learned how to design on Photoshop on my own. So I did a lot of tutorials online. And back then, you didn't have like all these structured online learning things, and you were like finding weirdly formatted, like scraped content sites about tutorials on how to make, you know, the weirdest things. And, you know, I learned how to, you know, design. And it was through design that brought me into the tech world. You know, I was designing websites. I worked with a friend of mine in college. We built a small web design company together. It really wasn't a company. It was kind of like us just doing contract work. But it was great for us to start learning how to just build stuff, right? And so I use my skill, which is design. I like things that are sexy and have good aesthetic. And then he doesn't really know what looks good, but can code it. So it kind of worked out. And then what happened was when I first started Kiip, the idea came to me, and I actually, the minute I got the idea, I didn't go into any paper or type a fucking business plan out. What I did was I designed the first prototype on Photoshop. The first thing I did was, what did I see in my head, and I'm gonna make it into Photoshop. And then what I did was I used that image, and then I whipped up a really shitty HTML version of it where like literally like the submit button would click to another static HTML page that said, thank you for submitting. Like, it didn't even submit the email address. And it was a terrible, like, it didn't even work. But it was to show how it could work in the flow. Theoretically, this is what it would do. And through that effort, one of my friends that day, Courtney, who's now my co-founder and CTO, he was almost like, oh, that's so cute, you're actually trying to make it work. That he's like, okay, let me just make this work for you. And so, you know, he helped build the initial prototype. At the time, he had his own company, right? He wasn't even interested in helping me at all. And then through him building it, oh my God, just in that process, he started to think of the possibilities, and then he got hooked. And then all of a sudden, him and I were like, I remember I was having lunch one day at this really shitty Vietnamese restaurant in San Francisco, and I was like, and he came to me, he's like, Brian, let's have lunch. He's like, I really want to join you on this. I was like, you sure? Do you really want to see this ugly face for the next 4 years? He's like, yes, I'm sure. And with that question, we became co-founders, and that's when we started the company. Any other questions? Yeah.
Brian, 2 questions, one regarding Kiip and another regarding you. The first one is, do you also do some kind of group advertisement? That is, instead of, for example, doing the advertisement just for one guy, doing more or less at the same time to that guy and some other friends of his, trying to engage them?
Oh, interesting.
Okay,
yes.
First question. The second is, are you already looking to start something else in the future? If you are not, we could really use a guy like you, you know?
So the first question was like, do we like do kind of like gathering groups to be aware of a product? You mean like, or kind of socially connected and stuff like that? So I can't say too much without having to kill you, but I would say that gaming is naturally a very social phenomena. Exercise also just so happens to be a very social phenomenon. Sometimes when you're running, not in the gym when you're all sweaty. But yes, there's a lot of thinking around how we can engage groups of people and also for social causes. So there's one thing we know is very powerful with Kiip is that because we can pinpoint when you're happy, why not help you spread that happiness through paying it forward? So there's a lot of few things we're thinking about. In terms of other projects and other things, like I will tell you, there's one moment that you will realize when you found your passion, at least for now. So people ask me like, you know, what's your passion? Like, what's your purpose? Da, 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 da. I found a purpose and a passion. Do I know if it's the passion or the purpose? I don't know yet. I'm still 21. I'm still very young. I don't even know what love is. I have no idea. Like, there's so many things that you just don't know when you're young. Yeah, and she knows that, and we're all very cool. And I don't think she wants to know that. Okay, that's another conversation. But at the same time, these are the things that you just don't know. So, what is the passion or the purpose? I don't know. But for now, I'm so hooked on Kiip that even other ideas that come into my head, I just give them away. I don't want to be distracted. You can have them. I have so many ideas, guys. Seriously, like they just fly in every day, and I just write them down, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave them here in my little sort of vault. I'll share them with people. Like I've met so many entrepreneurs that will have something where they could benefit from it. I'm like, hey, here's this idea. Hopefully you can run with it, because it's all about the execution. You guys know this. I don't want to be cliche about it, but I could come up with a bazillion ideas, but if I don't put my all and actually finish it and just follow through with something. Like Kiip for me, my goal is just to follow through with it. And here's the thing, now it's actually less about me. It is definitely not about me anymore. There's 45 people and their families. They have given up a lot to be with this company. It's not about me anymore. It is really not about me. It's like, how do I help? Like I feel the pressure, right? Because these guys have kids. They're having kids while they're at the company, not in the office. But this is real now. So I owe it to them, and so my outcome is about following through so that they are able to get the benefit that they deserve. So that is really what I see now in my company and where I'm going next. Any other questions?
How do you prioritize stuff? Like, do you use lists? Like, do you have so much happening and like, free time? I don't think you have free time, but
yeah.
How do you prioritize it? Girlfriend?
Yeah. The question is, how do I prioritize things? Because there's so many things going on. So I will tell you, I'm so happy I can now tell you this now, because a year ago I would have been like, shh, it's crazy, like I have no idea what's going on, like, and even now it's kind of a bit like that, but I will tell you, this is only one way. So for crazy busy people, I've now found out the secret. Okay, you ready? Yeah, drum roll. Okay, there is no fucking secret. Okay, it is crazy. You could have like 15 to-do lists. You could have your assistant managing everything for you. But at the end of the day, it's all still here, right? So you go crazy. You have to focus on everything. So what I have found that helps me is literally, and this is the only way to do it, 3 things every week. That's it. 3 things. And it could be any big size, small size. It can literally be sometimes one week I made one of my priorities calling my mom. Because it was literally that difficult because there's so much shit going on. But I called my mom and I was like, right, that's one done, right? I'm not even kidding you, this is real, right? There's 3 things, just make sure you finish these 3 things. And most of the time they're big projects, like, we need to hire a new VP, or we need to get one of our products live, or we need to do a big press push for something. And make sure that everything I do is around that. And then in any time that I have any extra time, and I usually will, whether at night or I'm chilling on a plane, I'll try to accomplish as much as I can on the other stuff, right? So yes, you'll have people who support you, like your teammates or your assistant or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, I've learned this. The minute I hired my assistant, Sheree, she's fucking amazing, right? It made me busier, right? Because it just meant to, and this is, you guys will all relate to this. You're entrepreneurs. The minute you have someone helping you, you're like, I'm just going to take on more. Yeah, right? It's like, this is perfect, right? It means I clone myself, I can do double as much now. And so I was like, bring it in, right? And then I realized, oh shit, I made it even worse. And so now we're hiring another person. And we're hiring you 3 times as much. But yeah, so there's really no way to really solve it. And so here's another example. This weekend, 48 hours in Lisbon. I shit you not. Christina and I are here for 48 hours. Yesterday, how many phone calls did I pick up? 2 phone calls. That's a record. Okay? That is a record. It was one of my VPs. I think the other one was Charisse. I think it was Charisse. Yeah. No, it was my mom. She did texted me. She was making sure I was alive. She's like, you haven't tweeted in a day. Like, are you okay? Yeah. She like called me. That's crazy. Yeah, I said to Christine, like, I'm gonna tune out. It's just a weekend, right? We're going straight back into the insanity tomorrow. Like, we're flying back to New York tomorrow. It's going to be crazy, right? But I needed the 2 days to unwind and just have some time away. And quite honestly, being with you guys is time away. And the reason is because my passion is, like I said, to make everybody around me lucky. So again, thank you for having me.